Hey, hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and I am so excited for today's episode because we have a special guest and we're actually covering something I haven't thought of a whole lot before, and that is learning design in your summit, which this topic just totally blows my mind, and I'm so pumped to talk about this. We're going to cover things like why learning design matters in a virtual summit, what to consider in your summit as far as learning design goes, and different ways to incorporate it throughout your event. To give you some background on our guest, she is a course creation and curriculum design expert. She helps thought leaders turn their brilliant ideas into powerful and profitable courses so they can improve the lives of others while building more space into their own. She has such a unique expertise to share, and I cannot wait for you to hear from her. So let's dive in and talk with Emily Walker. Welcome, Emily. I am so pumped to have you today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm just so jazzed. We're going to have a lot of fun today.
Oh yeah. It's going to be a total nerd out session. It's going to be good.
I'm ready for it.
Before we get into the nerd out session, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Yeah. So I love working with course creators, helping them take those big ideas, that big vision, and actually turn it into a course that transforms their people's lives. So I'm in the unique position of being a one-to-one service provider in the course creation space. So I saw there was a lot of people who have courses on how to build courses, but sometimes you need a bit more than that. Sometimes you need someone to, I like to call it Marie Kondo your content, take everything that's in your brain, dump it all out and think, how do we put this together in a mind-blowingly amazing experience?
I love it so much. And it is so neat. And I'm sure we can all think of courses where we've gotten inside and are like, what do we do with all this? This, I can't even, figure out what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to go from here, how to go through all of this. So what you do is so important. Can you tell us a little bit more about learning design? And is learning design what you would even call it? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, learning design is one of those things that it's really well known in the corporate and the academic spaces. If you want to build a course, if you want to build a certification program, training program, you name it, you bring in an expert like me. We go by lots of different names: learning design, instructional designer, curriculum designer. But what I like to think about is learning design is architecting transformation. It's how do we put together content, activities, tools, and then how do we actually present that, whether it's presentation, a video, whatever, to maximize the learner's results. So we want to make sure that they're having an amazing time, they're taking action, they're getting results while not feeling overwhelmed, while not feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. So learning design kind of brings together a lot of different things to transform ideas into a learning experience.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for breaking it down in simple terms. Can you talk to us about why learning design then matters in virtual summits?
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, I was saw this question. I was so excited. So the thing is summits are just the most amazing thing. I know you know this. They serve so many different purposes with your business. And I think that summits is something everyone needs to, at the very least, participate in. The thing is at its core, a summit is a learning experience. You're bringing together lots of different experts that are presenting these workshops, these master classes. And if you're not being intentional about how, at the micro level, how each individual experience is put together, and then at the macro level of how these experiences string together to have a transformation, you're missing out on this huge opportunity. Because whether your summit is, leading into selling a product, then you can have this transformation of the summit be getting your people ready so that they're ready to jump into this paid experience. Or it can just be you want to have them get amazing results from a summit. Because at the end of the day, people don't tend to just share about information they've gotten. They share about information that they've received because it's inspired them to change something. It's inspired them to take action. So it's free marketing built right in there, because they're going to remember oh my goodness, I went to the summit, I watched this workshop, and this thing resonated with me and I took action. That's at the end of the day is what we want people to be doing.
Oh my goodness. Okay, totally. And I didn't give this question to you ahead of time, so curveball. But what do you see as some of the biggest mistakes you see with virtual summits, and you're like, oh, this is terrible from a learning design standpoint?
Ooh, okay, this is a good one. All right, I always try not to get too negative, but I've got things. I've got a bone.
You're good. Just go for it.
So one, as I find people tend to pick a really generic topic, and then they go out and they seek out experts and they cram together all of these experts, and they don't really think about how do each of these presentations play together? Like I've been invited to be in a summit and they're like, okay, what are you thinking? Which first of all, I'm like, please tell me how I can serve your summit. Don't just like have me make it up because I don't know what the transformation is that you're building for your people. And then I realized they had someone else speaking on like a really similar thing, which I'm like, that's just a missed opportunity. One, for both of us, like our time. It's like, well, if I knew someone else was talking on the same topic, I could provide something different. But then also there's no playfulness between the different presentations where it's like, hey, this person helped you come up with like your amazing idea for a course. And now this person's going to help you build your outline. And now this person's going to help you do something different. So I think that's like the biggest thing I see is there's not an intentionality about how the presentations weave together. And then the other thing that drives me nuts is when people give you they're like, your presentation needs to be at least 40 minutes to 60 minutes long. And for me, I'm like, I like the window between 20 to 30 minutes. And even that's a bit long because most summits aren't live. I mean, I'm a big proponent of a live element to anything, and we'll get into that. But when it's pre-recorded and you don't have that engagement with the people watching, it's really, really hard to get a good result and to have an impact once you get over that 20-minute mark. Because there's actually a lot of science that says after about 17 minutes, the adult brain is like, I'm full, I'm good, I can't take any more. And it just kind of clicks off. So unless you have like the most engaging presentation ever, or you have tons of action and activities built in, it's really hard to have any sort of lasting impact, especially when you're competing with like 15 to 30 other presentations.
Ooh, see the 17-minute. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've been a part of so many summits where it's 45 to 60-minute presentations. And for me as a speaker, I'm like, ugh, that sounds exhausting to have to shove that much content into a presentation and try to make it in a way where I'm not just giving them way too much information. So this is really cool for me to hear this from you that like even 20 to 30 minutes can be a lot. Wow. I'm like mind blown right now.
Yeah. And the thing is I think it comes out of, we attach value to length of content. Yep. We're like, okay, you're going to get this summit and it's filled with hours of presentations, or you're going to buy this course and it has millions of pages of workbooks. And at the end of the day, it's like the value comes from the transformation you're providing. And so I would much rather be in a summit, whether as a speaker, where it's like, here's 20 minutes. This is like delicious bite size, but going to make a huge impact. And then as a participant being like, think about sitting down and being able to watch you could watch so many videos if they were like 15 to 20 minutes long versus you see the 45 minutes and you're like, okay, I'm going to watch like one a day, maybe two a day. I'm going to buy that all access pass. But like, let's be real. Are you actually going back and watching it? Probably not, because we tell ourselves that beautiful lie of like, I'll come back when I have more time. But when things are under that 20-minute mark, or even under that 10-minute mark, that's when people are like, I can do this right now. And it feels attainable and it gets that momentum.
Oh my goodness. See, when this episode goes out, I'm trying to think when that will be. I don't know if we will have announced a summit we're hosting yet, but I'm in the beginning stages of planning a summit now, as you know. And I'm just like, ooh, I have some things to go back and talk to my co-host about to like tweak and see if maybe we can incorporate this a little bit more, because I can see how impactful this can be. And thinking like to my own experience when I'm attending summits, I'm excited when I see a quick 10-minute video. I'm like, oh, heck yeah, that sounds fun. Like I know they're going to have an action step for me in that quick 10-minute video, where I don't feel that at all when I see like a 45-minute video. Then I'm like, ugh, I don't have time to watch this. Like I know I'm not going to watch it. Mm-hmm. So this is really
and then usually from like the speaker standpoint, we're like, 45 minutes. So then we cram it full of fluff. That's where you get like the long intros, the big sales pitches, that type of thing. Instead of being like 10, 15 minutes, make it super actionable, super practical. And then that opens the door as well. If you're like, okay, all right, now I'm building this summit, but my videos are all under 20 minutes. So they're around 10 minutes. How am I going to fill like 3 days worth? That's where you get to have a lot of fun with like, what else can you add to the summit? It's not just about the trainings. It's about other elements. And then all of a sudden it just elevates your entire summit experience to being this like insanely cool virtual event.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited about this. So, okay. We know some mistakes to avoid and how to fix those things. Now, how can we use learning design to make sure our attendees are taking action? Because that's something else you kind of mentioned before is, a lot of summits, people are overwhelmed. They're not going to do anything. What can we do to make sure they are and they're taking those next steps?
Yeah. So a big secret of learning design is starting with the end in mind. Instead of starting with like, this is my topic that I'm going to talk about. So like, let's say if I'm like, okay, this is my topic about how to create a course that like actually gets results, instead of being like, this is my topic, here's everything I know about it. Think about, what do I want people to walk away with, and being crystal clear on what that is. So the shorter the time frame you have, obviously the shorter the transformation is, the smaller the transformation. So when you have an opportunity to get crystal clear on that, like, I want them to walk away knowing exactly what the transformation is they're providing, or I want them to walk away knowing exactly what the topic of their next summit would be, something really specific. And then ask yourself, well, what do they need to do to be able to reach this end result that I have in mind for them? And this is where I almost say, like, get nerdy with the grammar and think about your verbs. Don't think about they need to know how to do something. They need to understand something. Think about, like, what are they actually doing? Are they brainstorming a list of ideas? Are they reaching out and doing market research? Are they filling out a form? Like, think about what are the actions they're taking, because you can't get your people to take action if you don't know what action you want them to take. Because that's where you can really like call people out, like in your presentation, say like, hey, this isn't just you get to sit back and passively listen. I need you to do something for me. So hit pause and go do it. I see you not doing it. Go do it right now. And when you can be crystal clear with the action, you're also really clear on how much time that will take. Because if an action takes longer than 10 minutes or 20 minutes, if you're sensing a theme here, that's where you have to break it down even smaller. Because what we're really trying to avoid is the I'll do it later syndrome. We want it to be they can do it now. So instead of being like, okay, I want you to go map out your entire course outline, it's like, oh, I want you to just think about what the subject of your course is. I want you just to think about who you're building this course for. All of a sudden it becomes so much smaller and so much more attainable that they're like, ooh, that felt good. I got a sense of momentum. I got something done. Now I can move on to my next small task.
Oh my goodness, Emily, this is so much fun. Oh my gosh. I hope everyone else listening is nerding out as much as I am right now, because this is exciting. We can make such a bigger impact, and it's easier on us to have shorter presentations that accomplish one thing, but one actual thing, not just a thing of shoving their mind full of information that they will probably never use. Okay, this is really cool. So are there other things we can include in our summit to make an impact from the learning design standpoint? And you kind of mentioned this earlier. I know you said some stuff about live events and things like that. Talk to us about what other things we can include.
So live components, I would say, are like the biggest thing. It's so funny because literally yesterday I saw like this Facebook thread of someone being like, I'm doing a summit. Should it be live or pre-recorded? And every single person was like, live, 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 do it live, live. And it's like, I can see the face you're making. You're like, don't do it live. It's an administrative nightmare. And it's true, because it's like, there's a lot of work. There's something to be said about being able to like pre-record things and have it done, have it organized. So it's all about like balancing the burden on you as the summit host, but also the transformation you want to provide. At the end of the day, it's like you need some sort of live component to get that engagement, to get that action taking. And if the idea of hosting like actual live recordings or live presentations sounds exhausting, think about how you can add other sort of live things in. Like maybe it's a panel, maybe it's a co-working session, maybe it's like a group call where you have breakout rooms where people are actually being able to talk about the things that they've learned. But this is where it comes back to thinking about, on the larger level, what's the transformation you're providing as part of your summit? And then day by day, what do you want them to achieve at the end of each day? Because then you can be really strategic about the types of live experiences you include. Okay, well, if at the end of this day, I want them to really like engage further with what they're learning, then you're going to want to have a group call where the discussion is facilitated. Or if you're like, okay, I want them to sit down, like the whole purpose of this day is to make a plan. So we're going to have a co-working session. We're going to have these sprints and we're going to walk people through it so that they are doing it. They're getting it done. Because when we're just sitting back and just watching passively, it's really hard to get that same impact.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. This is so exciting. Like for I think my most recent summit is the first one where I did some live networking sessions and live co-working sessions. And it was a game changer. I never thought that it would really matter that much, but that's like what made people excited. They got to know each other and started taking action together. The co-working sections, they were actually implementing what they were learning. So I knew they weren't just coming and filling their heads with all this information and leaving and accomplishing nothing. Like they were doing it live right there. So this is so cool to hear you say that it really can have such a big impact. I know you have a guide on group calls or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So a big thing I heard was people like, I want to lead a group call, but like I have no idea what I would actually say, or like how do I fill the time? And so I put together a free guide. There's actually 5 different types of like main group call experiences. And I put together a guide that gives you a structure so that you don't have to guess anymore. It's like, so let's say you want to run a co-working and you've never done it before. In the guide, you'll find a structure that's like, in the first 5 minutes, this is what you'll do. Then for 20 minutes, this is what you'll do. And then you'll come back together for another 5 minutes. It literally breaks it down like minute by minute, what you're doing, what you're saying. It gives you prompts. Like I've facilitated both in-person and live experiences or like virtual experiences for so many years that I feel like I have this like facilitator's toolbox of things that can make people's lives so much easier that we don't really talk about in the virtual space. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put it into a guide. Like, how can I make people's lives easier?
Oh my goodness. I love that. You guys have to grab that. We will link to that guide for you guys in the show notes. So helpful, especially if you've never done it before, to have it broken down. Here's what you do in every minute of this call. It just relieves so much pressure from us trying to figure out how to do it the right way, because you know how to do it the right way. So thank you for that. Oh my goodness. So I hope everybody's wheels are turning. I know we could talk about this for like literally hours. I'm sure you could talk about this kind of thing literally for hours, but I wanted to give everyone just an overview of what it looks like to think about learning design in a summit, to really take it to that next level and make sure you can help your attendees get the transformation you promised them. Because if you're not thinking about this, you're probably not getting as much of a transformation as you could otherwise. So Emily, I would love to hear from you. What is the biggest takeaway you'd love listeners to get from what we talked about today? Anything specific?
I think the biggest thing is the word intentionality. It's like being really, really intentional about what is the transformation, the experience you're trying to craft as part of your summit. And then just keep going like more and more micro with it. So as the whole summit, day by day, with each presentation. Because I can also say from the speaker standpoint, if you reached out to me and said, this is the experience I'm crafting, the transformation I want to provide, this is how I see you as the puzzle piece, like a key puzzle piece to this. And this is the kind of outcome or thing that I would like people to walk away from, or, what's your thoughts? Then that one just feels so good as a speaker because you're like, I see, like, you see me, you get me, you see what I want or like what I'm capable of providing. And I can see how this is intentionally woven together to maximize the impact. Because then you can really get fun, really get creative, and think about how you can stack these puzzle pieces of speakers and live experiences together to have this like mind-blowing result, which also makes it so much easier to promote your summit as well. Because one, people will be like, okay, the last summit I attended was the most amazing thing ever, so I'm definitely signing up for their next one. Or if it's their first time at the summit, you can say like, by day one, you're going to have this. Like if you watch every presentation, you attend the co-working sessions, you do this, you will walk away with this result. And that is so powerful. It's so much more powerful than being like, hey, show up and watch a bunch of videos by these speakers and, they're really cool and I'm really cool and you're really cool. So maybe something cool will happen.
That's what we do though.
That's what we do. Like a lot of the time it's like, hey, check it out. I'm in this summit. I'm talking about this super interesting thing. End of sentence. Instead of being like, if you want to be able to do this really specific thing, if you want this really clear outcome, if you want to see how this outcome connects to these other things you hadn't even thought about, it's going to blow people's minds.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay. I love this so much. I need to get off this interview so I can go make my summit better. So thanks for that. Tell us where we can go to learn more about you and what you offer.
Yeah, so you can go to my website, emilymwalker.com. I've got some really awesome free resources on there. I've got blog posts. And also feel free to connect with me on Instagram. I'm at Modern Leaders Co. That's Modern Leaders CO. And definitely slide into my DMs. Like I love chatting about this stuff. If you haven't picked up on it already, I get super nerdy. Like it is my mission that everyone has these really intentionally crafted learning experiences. So no more courses with low completion rates, no more summits with a basquillion hours of presentations that no one ever watches. I want your brilliance to actually be actionable so that people can experience and just get those incredibly results.
Thank you so much. This was so cool. Everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. For show notes and resources we mentioned, including links to Emily's guide, head to summitHostHangout.com/081. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit.